Donald Trump's attack on farms continue. Attack on farmers continue. Attack on those who voted for him.
Welcome to Politics
continues.
Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. That's what we aim to do every single day. How are my peeps doing? I trust everybody is doing fine. Let me get a few more parameters set here, and then we'll be ready to get started. A few parameters that have got to get going. Evangelical preachers and Trump destroying. Absolutely. We're going to have a great show for you today. Hey, John Cotter is in the house. El Presidente of Humble Area Democrats and the board member of the Progressive. Hey, what's the name of that again, Cotter? You know, the man, sometimes the mind get all combobulated, etc. We have Lisa Blair in from Atlanta, Georgia. Michael Rudnin, of course, is in the house from Brooklyn, New York. Yvette Avery Herod, Atlanta, Georgia. We've got Joe from Los Angeles, California. And my brother from another mother is Patrick Magner in from Houston, Texas. That is Progress, Texas. New board member, Progress, Texas. Great to have you here, John. We also have Richard C. Brown, Tina Rader, Ralph Gilby, Joe again. Good afternoon. I don't have the first couple of dozen out of Substack yet, but we're going to get started. A progressive media outlet is what it is. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. And with a program now on KPFT, I think it's once a week, right? Hey, John, when does the program come on KPFT? Do you remember? I think it's on HD2, and it comes on, I think, an hour once a week. I just don't remember what day it is. Progress, Texas. Luis Rollins, welcome aboard. Look, I am, what's the word? Very, very positive of where we are right now. Assuming, of course, Sunday mornings, thank you for that, John. Assuming we keep on the trajectory that we're on right now, I think everything is falling into place. Donald Trump this morning gave his speech at the prayer breakfast. It was his standard rambling speech. Made up of lies. So as we looked at the jobs cratering on one screen, on the same news network, we're listening to him talk about the economy being the best that it has ever been. As he's speaking about the great job he's doing for the farmers and giving them $12 billion, we have farmers on MSNBC saying, where's the money? And we don't have the money, while Argentina gets $40 billion. So we have that split screen that slowly, well, look, those of us in the know, we know what the truth is, of course. We know what the truth is. But there are many who don't. And I found a TikTok from an evangelical guy, from a guy who grew up evangelical on TikTok, that I did a little piece on. But more importantly, I did a piece on farmers as well, from a farmer that came on to, I think it was on Katie Tur yesterday, who had something to say. So I wanted to enhance that picture a bit. Carl Cox is in the house. How you doing, Carl Cox? He says Carl Cox is here. Mashed potatoes, yes. Gravy, no. Hey, if I'm going to have mashed potato, I think I need it with the gravy, man. I like that brown gravy with a little bit of cornstarch in it, you know. Uh, then we have Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas says, good afternoon, Politics and Right, listeners and viewers. Good afternoon. Cynthia Mena, thank you for being here, as well as LJ. All right, folks, so we have a lot to talk about. Tenemos mucho por de hablar esta tarde. I tell you where I want to start. I want to start with the two videos that I have, and then I'm going to go into talking about the concentration camps being built throughout the country. And notice the nomenclature that I'm using, the terminology that I'm using. I want us to envision all these places being built as concentration camps. Because right now they are used to house the undocumented workers and many Americans as well. But I want you to realize that after we have run out of people to put in these human storage places, these concentration camps, it's going to have to be populated with something else. And we will make a whole lot of different groups of people the menace to society that belongs there. But we're going to talk about that after my two videos. Let me go ahead and start with, I tell you what, I'm going to start with the evangelical preacher, or rather with the evangelicals, because I really enjoyed what this guy had to say. And I thought putting him on and also giving him some more visibility throughout YouTube, it said that would be a good thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play him now, and then we'll continue después de esto. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. You know, a lot of my listeners, most of the ones that are MAGA are on the right, they sort of get upset when I really knock the evangelical church. But a lot of the hate that's going on right now, a lot of the inconsistencies in the messages coming from the right now is a direct responsibility or a direct result of pastors that ultimately I consider evil, because they should know better. They should know the word. They should know what things stand for. I mean, again, you sit back and you wonder what in God's name would allow those who profess to follow a man who actually believe in everything that is completely opposite to their Führer, Donald Trump, and that they will so support this particular president. At the same time, they just about force their pew to do it. I was listening to, going through my TikTok scroll, and there's this guy that explained it quite well. I want you to check him out, and then I will take it on the other side, because he did a great job. Check him out.
I am a Southern Baptist. I grew up in the church, which isn't hard to do in Alabama, where there are 13,000 churches. There are 7 within 5 minutes of my house. When I die, I want to be cremated and my ashes turned into sand art like we made every summer at Vacation Bible School, because I loved VBS as a kid. I go to the one at Mission Baptist, then First Baptist Woodstock, then First Baptist West Blockton, then Mount Carmel Baptist, learning about the man who healed the sick, who said that hoarding wealth would keep you out of heaven, who took fish and bread from a child and fed the masses, who said welcome immigrants and judge not and let he who is without sin cast the first stone, who taught that we should love and help others. Then I grew up and I get called a woke radical socialist because I repeat and support the things I learned in church. And I get told that by the people who learned the same words of Jesus. And they say, we got to get the people back to Jesus. You first. You can't get people back to Jesus if you are against everything that Jesus taught. But they say that I'm against Jesus because I support the killing of the unborn. Jesus never talked about abortion, but he did talk a whole lot about helping people, which y'all are against. But then y'all say, well, we're not against helping people. We're just against the government doing it. But y'all want the church to be in charge of the government. It's a constant merry-go-round of hypocrisy and putting words in Jesus' mouth to support something he did not talk about while ignoring the things that he did talk about. Y'all say we got to get the kids back to Jesus. That's why we're going to put the 10 Commandments in the classrooms. We're going to teach the Bible. Why don't you worry about teaching the Bible in church? Why put the Bible in classrooms when it doesn't even work in the church?
He nails it. He nails it. And you know, I think more people need to come out like this guy and not only point out the hypocrisy. What gives this guy the authority to talk about it is that he lived it. He lived what the church used to teach. He lived the goodness that the church used to represent. Well, then again, we have to be careful with these, with the Southern Baptists, because again, the split came because why again? One supported slavery, one didn't. But anyhow, look, folks, you can no longer take those that call themselves evangelical Christians who support Donald Trump, MAGA, and the others seriously. You cannot take them seriously. But the one thing you can be reassured is that they're a clear and present danger to your freedom. They're a clear and present danger to your finances, and they're a clear and present danger to the country as a whole. Because not that they're bad people deep inside, because they're just they're weak. They're followers of those who have indoctrinated their minds. But what's dangerous about them is that they have given Donald Trump carte blanche to do whatever he wants to do in this country. And with that, it doesn't only bring down the farmers in America, the rural areas in America. Ultimately, it brings the whole darn country down. I've done pieces on what he's doing to the dollar, what he's doing to the United States having a sovereign currency that's worth something. He's destroying it all. And he's using the power, the dictatorship of the evangelical pastors to tell their pew how they must think, how they must vote, and it's all for their own demise. And it's all for their own demise. And I am going to show you in a minute about the pastors, right? Not about the pastors, but about what has actually happened with what they're doing. Elizabeth Silek LaRue, how you doing, beautiful? In Mexico, says, yup, I can say with certainty from Mexico that the deterioration of the USD is happening. You know what? A lot of us here don't see, Elizabeth. We don't see what's happening in the gold and silver markets. We don't see what's happening to the dollar. Everybody looks at the stock market and say, oh my God, the stock market is going through record. You know why the stock market is going through record? If you have a declining dollar, and remember, this year the dollar has lost 10% against major currencies. If you have a declining dollar, what do you think happens to the stock market priced in dollars? It seems higher than it really is. That's what a lot of people don't get. A lot of people don't understand the way markets work. I think capitalist markets are frauds because it's nothing more than high-level gambling casinos, right? There's no doubt about it. There's no correlation between the market and reality. No correlation. Otherwise, how can a media company have the same valuation of a much more large valuation than a Chrysler, a much larger valuation than a company that has physical assets? It makes absolutely no sense. The stock market is a fraud, but it's a fraud that we have designed into our economic system. So there you go. But now, what has happened is, if you take a look, and by the way, I don't know if you guys have seen what happened to Bitcoin. Went from 120 something thousand dollars to 60 something thousand dollars in what? 3 months or so? Check it out. Anyway, so you are going to see that the stock, people are talking, oh, look at the appreciation of the stock market. Well, if the dollar is fallen and the assets remain constant, then the price of those assets have to go up. It's called inflation, right? And that's what we're seeing here. But nobody tells you that. They don't teach you that in school, right? You have to learn that on your own. E2247 says, keep PDR from doing that too. Doing what? Let's see. What are we talking? Allegedly, liberal outlets. Let me read the first one. Allegedly, liberal outlets in the mainstream media functions only as form of liberal entertainment, being affirmative and morale boosting, rather than hard-hitting independent news sources. Keep PDR from doing that too. I will. That's why it hurt so badly to me of what happened to the Post, the Washington Post, because irrespective of what you think about the Washington Post in the aggregate, individual reporting at the Washington Post has been very, very good. Now, that said, we have independent media has to give context to their reporting because they are limited by the corporate structure. So when Donald Trump does certain things, they can just do straight reporting. We can give context to what Donald Trump did. Donald Trump did it because he's an evil person who actually stole X. I mean, we can actually build on the context of the good reporting they've done. Now they've lost 300 great reporters, and we don't have that leverage anymore, which makes lives harder for us. The good thing about it is, I think a lot of these guys will still have their contacts, and a lot of them will come on to other platforms like Medium and Substack and maybe their own sites, and we will still be able to go through them, right, and get some of these as well. So I don't know how it's going to hammer out, but we'll see. Let's see what else we've got here. Don Lemon was reporting, not invading, not disrupting, just gathering news. Yep, that's what he was doing. But again, this is now, uh, what can I say, a fascist state, right? We know that we are now a fascist state. E2247 also says general strike, no matter how inconvenient and painful, it is better than death squads and death camps strewn about the US by number 47, the president, the useful idiot or Russia's spy, or whatever his insane case may be. Deb Dennis says, I don't really know what the function of the stock market is. What is its purpose? It's liquid. It's liquidity. Look, what the stock market is for you to buy a piece of a company and hold on to it. And if you need ready cash, you go onto the stock market and trade that piece of stock for cash that you can then use in the economy. Okay, so all it is, it's a way of holding money in a form other than cash, and the tenet being that companies can grow faster than putting it in a passbook or something like that, right? But it has turned into a complete casino, and not only a casino, it has turned into a form of legal fraud. Let me give an example. When you go to, if you're a wealthy person and you go see your financial manager is going to tell you, hey, we can create instruments like collars, COLLARS. We can create all these different financial instruments so that we can take the risk out of you owning that stock in case it goes down. We can also find ways for you not to have to pay taxes by borrowing against your stock and never paying it back. We can also, because we control a lot of the politicians, we can say that monies that are gained from an insurance policy is not taxable. There are all these things that rich people do not to pay their fair share of taxes, right? And the stock market is just one instrument within that domain. As an example, who am I speaking to again? As an example, Deb Denny, when you own stocks and if you hold it for over, I think it's a year, and you sell it, let's say that stock doubled, it's income to you, just like income in a passbook is income to you. Guess what doesn't happen? You don't pay the same tax rate as the average person pays. You're capped out at 20% or so, while if you made that kind of money from wages, you are going to pay 30 something, almost 40% in income tax. So they give all these tax benefits using the stock market, insurance companies, bankruptcy, as Elizabeth just mentioned, to hide money and to evade paying taxes. That's why a few days ago, our good friend Patrick Magner said, we are leaving about $1 trillion of taxes every single year on the table and not collecting it from wealthy people. Think about if we could collect that tax from the wealthy people. People will say, well, that would be money extracted from the economy and the economy will decline. Not true. If we were taking that $1 trillion out of the market from the lower end people, that will affect their spending, like the tariffs are doing right now. The tariffs are materially affecting the economic turnaround of the dollar because it goes to poor people or middle class people who pay most of it. But if you take $1 trillion a year out that these people are not paying in taxes, the delta, the extra money they would put into the economy because of that, it's called the marginal, in economic terms, it's called the marginal propensity to consume. That means for every dollar that you get, what percentage of that dollar would it stop you from spending? For the wealthy person, taxes does not change, or taxes do not change the amount of money you spend. It is like if you have $10 billion and you have to spend an extra $10 million, that is chump change. So that doesn't change the economy. Why? Because you would have had that money overseas somewhere. You may have had that money in the Cayman Islands or somewhere, just sitting there, hiding it. People, because we are not educated on these issues in high school, in elementary school, and not even in college. People don't understand what the damage that the capitalism and wealthy people are to the economy as a whole. They are a clear and present danger to the economy. And based on just the simple mathematical formula of how an economy works, they are on the pathway to take all the wealth away from the people at the bottom. No way around it. Because their monies grow at a faster pace than your money, than the money of the masses. By definition, by simple math, they take it all. It takes years, but they take it all. Let me give an example. There was a time when they were taking it all from the other, right? The other is who financed them. It started out with the slaves, the Chinese, and all these other folks. They could do them harm to get their marginal larger share of the economy, right? But as things equalized, right? You know who they had to come for? The majority population. Because they had already either bled these other groups dry or they could no longer get any more out of them in the aggregate. And as they are now taken from the majority groups, what happens? They have to find a boogeyman. So they go ahead and institute white Christian nationalism and all these things so that you will take your eye off of the ball. You won't think it is capitalism that is milking you dry. You will think it's those other people. And if you are not a thinker, you'll just sit back and say, the reason we are doing so badly is because of those immigrants, those funny looking people. Well, it is okay to accuse these funny little people of doing all these bad things if you just keep them in your country still working. They still keep the economy up, but you use them as a punching bag, but you keep them here. Nobody expected what Donald Trump is doing, though. Donald Trump says, these are bad people. They eat your cats. Let's get rid of them. Okay. So now they're getting rid of the Latinos and all these other immigrants that actually are a net positive to our country, right? Net positive to our country. They pay more taxes than they take out. They pay more taxes than they take out. But here's the funniest part, people. I laughed because I want to give you guys some context. Yesterday, the Cato Institute, or a couple days ago, the Cato Institute released their report. They went and did all the research to show that our deficit is lower because of immigrants. Our productivity is higher because of immigrants. Social Security is going to last longer because of undocumented immigrants who pay into it but don't get anything out of it. And the company, the think tank that released that document is the Cato Institute. When I saw that, I almost, to myself. It's like I would expect one of our progressive organizations, EPI or one of these guys, to release that document, because they've released documents like this before. That, every year they do these studies that show that both undocumented immigrants and immigrants are a net positive to the country. But why would the Cato Institute, a right-wing libertarian conservative group, release that document? Well, because they didn't expect Donald Trump to do what he's doing to get rid of these people and hurt the economy. You see, Donald Trump is dumb. The Cato Institute isn't. Stephen Miller is dumb. They are executing on their racism. You see, racism is there not for you to execute on it if you are in leadership. Racism is there for you to put onto the Mike Cesaks of the world. You keep the Mike Cesaks of the world uninformed and thinking that racism is something that is real, but you don't do anything about it. Because the real capitalist knows that we need those undocumented workers to get the peaches in Georgia so that they're not on the ground rotten. We need the people picking the lettuce in Arizona so that they don't get left in the field. You see? So while we keep the racism up so that the masses are looking elsewhere, we don't expect you to do anything about it. But Donald Trump had another idea. Donald Trump is going to die, right? He's going to die, so he wants to be a super multi-billionaire before he dies. So what does he do? He says, wait a minute. I can build concentration camps and have all my buddies make money from those concentration camps. I can make a lot of money, but that is for the next subject. Let me play the farmers thing. Thank you for that. Who started me on this? Deb Deneuve started me on this one. But let me go ahead and play the farmers thing, and then we'll get back to the concentration camps, because this is such an important subject. In other words, they depend on us being stupid. They depend on us being stupid. Let's play the farmers piece, and then we'll come back to the concentration camps. Let's go ahead and do that ahorita mismo. Donald Trump's attack on farms continue. Attack on farmers continue. Attack on those who voted for him continues. And you have to wonder, what is it going to take? Well, there's a report that came out. A large group of agricultural experts warned that U.S. farms, and let me put this on the screen. I think it's important that people actually see it in black and white. Okay? Agriculture expert warned of widespread collapse in U.S. farms thanks to Trump policies. These disruptions are financially squeezing food and agriculture businesses and sowing the seeds of division in rural communities. A large group of agricultural experts warned that U.S. farms are taking a financial beating thanks to President Donald Trump's global trade war. In a letter sent to the chairs of ranking members of the House and Senate Agricultural Committees on Tuesday, the experts warned of a potential widespread collapse of American agriculture and our rural communities. Again, where are farms again? Oh my God, farms are in rural communities, right? But let's get a little bit deeper. I'm going to leave the paper alone and just go with common sense of our listeners here. Donald Trump has done two major things that are really killing farmers' businesses. What has he done? Imposing tariffs on China has killed the soybean markets and many other agricultural markets where people just have to say, we're not going to buy from the United States anymore. Other countries like Brazil and Argentina and Chile, other countries also in tropical areas that grow year-round, we can go over there and buy from them, which is exactly what they've done. America's agricultural output has kept up, but its exports they're in trouble. And here it is, folks, all because Donald Trump has killed the markets of the farmers. It's almost like he wants them out of business so that big agribusiness can come and take over. Let's give another example of another policy. His immigration policy of rounding people up off the streets and throwing them into his concentration camps to enrich his buddies who build these concentration camps, who work these concentration camps, who fund these concentration camps to feed them whatever junk they give them to eat, to house them, and charge the government, what I understand it is $750 per inmate per day. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that one. But it costs a lot of money to go ahead and take these undocumented workers off the streets and lock them up. It costs us the taxpayer money. Why not let them stay home, continue to work, let them work through the courts if necessary, and then if they are to be deported, do that instantly. In other words, we pick them up, we deport them if we cannot resolve them being here. But no, that's not how it works. They rather pay the big plutocrats, the capitalists, to go ahead and house these folks in concentration camp. So he's destroying farmers as he destroys the lives of people, as he enriches himself and his cronies by doing what he's doing. But again, the collapse is on. I want you to listen to this farmer who was interviewed on MS Now, because this is so important for people to understand what's going on here. Check this out, then we'll take it on the other side.
Donald Trump's policies on agriculture for months now, and there is now a new dire warning from former Agriculture Department officials, as well as leaders of farm groups. They are saying a widespread collapse of American agriculture and our rural communities could come soon, caused by rising costs and limited profits, conditions they say that have existed for years. but have gotten worse under the Trump administration and its policies. Joining us, soybean farmer and founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association, John Boyd Jr. Really good to have you, as always. How are things going?
Well, it's the worst times in American history since the 80s for farmers in this country. And that letter that they wrote, I think it was a good step in the right direction, but we sending a letter to people who failed to do anything about the president's policies, which is our Congress. The president's tariffs, and you read a little bit of that letter that I don't agree with, is Biden didn't do this. Former President Obama didn't do this. These are the president's policies. These are his tariffs. In fact, the highest time I ever sold soybeans in my career, my 43-year career, was under President Obama for $18 a bushel. Under President Trump, I sold some of the lowest as $7 a bushel during his first presidency when he came in, and he done the same thing. He announced tariffs against China. China buys most of U.S.-grown soybeans. Canada, who's we rely on for fertilizer, and corn for Mexico that we sell, mostly U.S.-grown corn. These are these president's policies that are ruining American agriculture. And then on top of that, he gave $40 billion. So he really sold out America's farmers and gave $40 billion to Argentina. And he promised us $12 billion in relief. So the president went down to Iowa last week and said, I just gave farmers $12 billion. I want to tell all of the viewers that are watching this, the farmers have not received a dime of the $12 billion. And that's what the president does. He says things, and there's really no accountability. Black people love him, all these things. But when I tried to attend the president's farm meeting that he had several weeks ago at the White House, there wasn't one black farmer at the table. As a matter of fact, there wasn't one black person in the room. And they told me I couldn't attend the White House meeting, something about they were moving away from DEI. I'm talking to you from my farm. There's no DEI on my farm. My cattle eat the same amount of hay. My tractor burns the same amount of diesel fuel, and I have to be able to produce a crop here just like everybody else.
I'm sorry, what? There was a farm meeting at the White House. You tried to go. Were you there physically? Did they turn you away at the door? Or
the farm community is a very small community. So people were telling me that there was going to be a farm meeting. And I reached out to the White House to attend, and that's the feedback that they got. In fact, they said they were moving away from the black farmer issue. They were moving away from DEI and the small farmer issue, and they were focusing on large-scale white farmers and corporate farmers because they produce the most food, is what this administration said. And they told me that they may come back in a couple of years and revisit the farmers of color issue, but right now that they were moving away from it. And where's the accountability? I'm a farmer just like anybody else. As a matter of fact, I'm a pretty good farmer. If I wasn't, I wouldn't be able to survive under this president's horrible policies that they're putting out there.
Were there other smaller farmers there?
Not that I know of. And you guys could verify exactly who was at the table. But from what I was told, that there wasn't a black person in the room,
right.
Either in the audience or at the table. And this administration keeps saying that, it's not about race, it's not about color. But the president brought in South African white farmers and gave them a fast path to citizenship and going to provide them with a homestead, all these things that they've never done for a black person in this country. And they keep, this president has divided this country by the definition of race and made race relations in our country horrible at this time.
All right, we're going to look into those claims there about that meeting. John Boyd Jr., thanks so much for joining us. Always appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So now we have a mixture of tariffs, a mixture of killing the labor force, and then for the farmers that are not your majority, specifically black farmers and others, you don't even need, come and check out what we have in store for you. But there's one other thing. Subsidies for farmers. He claimed he's given them $12 billion. Of course, that is hard to find. But you know who got $40 billion? Argentina. Argentina has a right-wing government that needs propping up. So Donald Trump has taken our money, given $40 billion to Argentina, who then goes ahead and take our soybean markets away from our farmers and sell the soybeans to China, America's major soybean buyer. Now you have to ask, make America great again? Huh. Make America great? America first? Nope. Nope. That's not what it's all about. It's Trump first and his cronies second. Trump first and his cronies second. They are destroying the fabric of America. And the thing about it is this: progressives have to get on the ball. Progressives need to be flooding the airwaves in rural America, because as Donald Trump destroys these people, they need to know that the destruction isn't from, oh, those city folks. The destruction is the guy that you voted for. Don't forget it. It's the guy you voted for. It's the guy you voted for. I mean, that is something that we have to paste in your mind. And the only solution you have is to unvote the guy. In other words, every subsequent election, you have got to vote progressive. You have got to go out there and make sure you reverse absolutely everything that this person has done. Let me see. Before I go into the concentration camps, I think Brother Rudnin had some stuff in the beginning of the program. Is that right, Brother Rudnin? I always ask you to bring a couple of these things, and I don't want to not play the thing that you brought. So here we go with one of your things coming up right now. Let me see. Let's go with Brother Rudnin stuff. There you go. Come on. Where's the sound? Where is the sound? I'm screwing up. My fault.
Administrator of the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services says that they...
Let's do it again.
Start working a year earlier, right out of high school, or work a year later, not retire.
Yeah, so the Republican plan is to make Americans start working earlier and never stop. Dr. Oz, who's the administrator of the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services, says that they want to make sure Americans are healthy enough to work even more so that the national debt is taken care of. They don't want to stop funding ICE, defense increases, or tax the rich. Instead, Republicans think the problem is that we're not working enough, despite worker productivity only increasing and overall wealth growing. And regarding the whole making Americans healthy thing, yeah, this is coming from the same guy who implemented a plan to help AI deny people's medical claims, and who belongs to the same party that has rolled back vaccine standards, gutted cancer research, and voted to deny millions of people health insurance coverage. But sure, guy who sold snake oil pills from an MLM on his talk show, tell us about how you want to make America healthy.
Yeah, this is serious. Let me just say this, guys. Thank you for that, Michael Radin. That's important. Now, you see, you guys have a way of changing the things that I'm going to talk about, but this is important. America's, let me tell you, let me point out a few things. When I first went to a symposium held by Dr. Economist Richard Wolff, I had an understanding of capitalism. I always knew there was a problem with how things worked. I always knew that. In fact, if you take a look at one of my books, I actually pointed out that I remember a teacher laughing at me because when I found out that if people really like your product and you make a lot of it, and the demand is high, that you should actually charge more in a capitalist society. You don't just say, I am satisfied with a 5% markup, and as long as I can produce it, I'll keep producing it for whatever that mark. That's not how it works. It works for maximal extraction. But let's leave that aside for now. What turned me on to Dr. Wolff is the following. He had a symposium called Capitalism Hits the Fan. And I remember going to that and my jaw going to the ground. And let me explain why. He showed that since when Reagan came in, at that point, we started to have, because of unions and all of that pre Reagan, we had wages going up with productivity, etc. If you're producing more, then you should make more money. All the productivity gains shouldn't go to the owner of the company or to the stockholders, etc. In other words, you made things more efficient. You were able to produce more units per time than anybody else, or and it got better. Well, what happened since Reagan is that you saw the wage virtually flat line. But if you are to keep buying a lot of products, right? If you want to buy a lot of products and you want to keep your economy going, you want to pay, technically speaking, you would want that rise to continue in those people's paychecks. And you know who knew that? Henry Ford. Henry Ford realized that if he wanted to sell his cars, he needed to ensure that his employees and others made enough money to afford that car. Well, well, the capitalists thought of something even better than making sure their wages were commensurate with the products they wanted to buy. And what did they do? And when Richard will point this out, I was like, oh my God, that's true. In the days of the 40s and the 50s, it was hard to get a credit card or to buy a house without a big down payment, all that good stuff, right? But the capitalists saw something. They found a way to do two things. One, to keep your wages low, and two, to still have you shopping by owning you. You may say, owning me? Yeah, with a thing called debt. So what they did is if you take a plot of the line, and this is what he showed in the Capitalism Hit the Fan. He showed that people's wages, he showed that people's wages stayed the same or virtually the same. In fact, many a times less than inflation, right? And as their wages stayed the same, what increased is their credit. They kept on giving them more credit. So they killed two birds with one stone. They were able to keep their prices, their wages low. As productivity increased, they gave them more credit so people could max their credit to keep the economy going by buying products. And at the same time, the capitalists made a lot of money and you owed so much more, right? You now were owned because you had this debt. They were making money not only from you getting a lesser wage, but they were also making money on the debt that you owed them, on that thing called interest on the debt you owed. So it was magical. Not only were they paying you less, but you were paying them the honor of buying the products from them. Hey, this is magical, man. This is magical. When I tell you this is an evil system, we don't quite see it that way because we market it, oh, you got your debt and you got your American Express card and your Visa, and you think you're somebody, but you're owned. You know, I remember a Panamanian who stayed in Panama, who lived on the side of a mountain, gets his own water, grows his own food, but has no money. And some Panamanians come over there with their credit cards and all of that. And he asked a simple question, but what do you own? I have my house. I have the creek that goes through there. I have my trees. If I need food, I go pick the tree. I can get the yucca out of the ground. I can do all of that. I'm self-sufficient. I am rich. I don't need cash to be rich. I am rich. That's what the Panamanian who has his land, who doesn't have to pay a yearly property tax on it or lose it. It is amazing. It is amazing. There are these other financial instruments that the rich use called trusts, right? That isolate all of their earnings from themselves and has different categories in how they're taxed. People, let me tell you something. The reason some of you get mad when I hit capitalism and it's like, what are you, a communist? No, I'm not. I'm a free enterpriser. I believe in free enterprise, not in these instruments that screw us all. But it's hard to tell this story when you have been indoctrinated in this story all of your life, and that anybody who speaks against that system is somehow a communist. No. Now, let me go ahead. Michael says, Egberto, by that, every farmer is rich. I think that by capitalism mindset, self-sufficiency is the definition of poverty. And you nailed it there. If look, I want to show you guys something, right? I want to show you how evil the system is. Let's say you have a home in a subdivision. I've got a home. I can work with my hands. I know how to do things, right? I could put solar cells on my home, and I know how to tie it into with the inverters, etc. I know how to tie it into my own home so that I know how to buy batteries, charge the batteries up, set it up so that I could get electricity fully from the sun. Guess what? You cannot in America, you live in a town, do that without having to pay a penalty to the private company who delivers electricity to you. That is a fraud that we have under capitalism, right? The same applies to water. There are some states where it is illegal for you to collect rainwater and store it for your own use. I mean, in Chile, who decided to take the full capitalist model for the longest time and privatize water, I want you to think about it. They decided, like how the Hunt, I think it was the Hunt brothers who attempted, no, it wasn't the Hunt brothers, it was the guy who did gas. I don't remember his name right now. West Texas bought up all the water rights. Capitalism is about monetizing everything. They like to give it a definition as the efficient allocation of resources. That's false. That's crap. It's a system designed to extract out of those who don't inherently have capital. And it ensures that most of you will never have any capital of any value. That's why 5% of America, or the top 1% of Americans, I think it is, the top 1% of Americans own more value than the bottom 95% of Americans. I want you guys to put that in your pipe and smoke it. Because people don't understand the extractive nature of what we've done in this country. People just don't understand the extractive nature of what we've done in this country because they keep us fed and entertained. So you watch all those reality-based TV, you stupefy yourself, you have regular, bad, cheap food, and then you don't think about it. And then they apply a little bit of hate in there for those people that are dumb enough to hate and think that hating those brown people or hating those other people are going to solve our problems by you not attacking them. Let's see, Egberto, rainwater harvested is legal in all 50 states, but it is not unrestricted everywhere. Restricted states while no state bans it completely, some include Colorado, Utah, Nevada, and Arkansas have strict regulations on caps on how much you can collect. Exactly. Exactly. And I mean, there is more to it than just the paragraph that you gave me there, Ruddin. There's more to it because of water rights and all that kind of stuff with groundwater. There's a whole lot of it. No, I read it. I read it, and I understand what it says. So it is important, folks. It is important that we understand these things because it's not taught in school. It's not taught anywhere. It is just we just lived in sort of an ad hoc manner. Patrick Magno says Colorado did in the past. If they don't know, if they don't now. Anyway, we are coming up to the end of the program. I inside of the blog that I'll have today, there will be the link to the Common Dream story about concentration camps. And the idea is this: why aren't we making more about concentration camps in America? Remember this: when they build this stuff out, the amount of undocumented workers has always been a lie, right? 20 million, that's all the kind of stuff that he said. It's been a lie. And when you don't have to put these people away, let's see what Michael has here. Egberto, is that 70? If it's 70 seconds, yeah, I can do it. Let's go ahead and do it. I'm just so sick of being. All right, let's go. I'll do it for you, Michael. After all, you do a lot of looking up this stuff for us. It's important. Thank you for that, brother. All right, let's go ahead and play Michael's last one before we close the show down. Here we go.
Just so sick of being bullied and told that I have to talk about politics. I'm not political, okay? So here's the thing. Silence isn't neutral. We know this. And announcing your silence definitely isn't neutral. That's political, babe. So when your favorite influencers continue posting their outfit of the day, their day in the life content without acknowledging the fact that people are being detained, families are being ripped apart, people are being disappeared, people are being killed by government action. That's not apolitical. That's a political choice. And here's the part they either don't want to admit or might be too dumb to know. When you get on the phone and start saying, stop demanding that I talk about politics, this is so unfair, I'm being bullied, you're not staying silent. You're announcing your indifference. And you're not only announcing it, you're defending it with your whole chest. Politics isn't just about speaking up. It's about what you normalize, what you choose to ignore, what you insist doesn't deserve your attention. And refusing to acknowledge state violence doesn't make you neutral. It doesn't make you apolitical. It aligns you with them. This isn't about bullying, and if you think it is, I'm convinced you've never actually been bullied. It's about accountability. Your audience is saying, hey, we want to hold you to this standard, and you're saying, no, I don't want to. And that's fine, but let's be honest. Because history has been very clear that indifference isn't harmless, it's support.
I love her. So, she's absolutely correct. She's at everything. What I tell people all of the time when I give speeches, when I'm out there in the field giving speeches, everything is political, folks. Everything is political. Anyway, tengo que terminar con lo que estoy haciendo ahora porque son las 4. It is 4 o'clock and I've got to finish up here. So please support the program however you can, my brothers and my sisters. And how can you do that? You can support us by becoming paid subscribers of Politics Done Right. It's like getting us a coffee. No, but really, we can't do this without you. This has been a heavy lift. I am going to, you know what I'm going to do one of these days? I'm going to get a video of sort of my workflow to show you guys what we do to get all this stuff done. And just so that you can see, this isn't just something you can throw up or whatever. There's a lot of work and research that goes into this. We use a lot of tools, AI tools. We use a lot of grammar check tools, all this kind of stuff to try to do the best we can with you. And all of that costs, right? So what I'm asking you for is to please support the program. And it's easy. Just become a paid subscriber. You'll be doing a good thing. And I ask you to become paid subscribers of several newsletters that are doing a good thing. I see my good friend in here, Elizabeth Silek LaRue. Check her out. If you're thinking about moving off to another country and want to get a good start or whatever, she does a whole lot of that. Check her out at her Substack, Elizabeth Silek LaRue, ESQ. Check her out. I don't see anybody else in the chat that I want to give a shout out to as far as going to their Substack, but I definitely want to go there. Please become a paid subscriber today by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, or if you are already on Substack, just click that subscribe button and select one of the paid subscription models, because we cannot do this without you. I got to get out of here. It's 4:02, and I don't want to have to shrink this stuff down to get it down to an hour. So I want to thank you guys. Love you all. Write me directly at info@politicsdoneright.com, info@politicsdoneright.com. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.